Hi, I'm Chuck, KK6USY for Ham Radio Ventures. Today's video is going to be something a little bit different. It's going to be on why I chose the Sony A6100 as my camera for YouTube. I started out with a Canon T3i, love that camera, but it didn't do autofocus. And my little walk up here that I just did was actually to hopefully my Sony didn't let me down, how it actually works. The video also will be on things that I've purchased since I started YouTube, and just kind of not a perfect how-to, but how I've done it. I don't know everything about YouTube. I'm still learning every day, but I just thought maybe some people might be interested in seeing what I've purchased to make my job a little bit easier, and why I did that. So I've had a few of my subscribers actually start their own YouTube page, and maybe this will help them too. I've been helped by the YouTube group with all the ham radio guys. So let's get on the video, and sorry, it's going to be a lot of overhead of cameras and whatever I have. Stick with me, here we go. Oh, and stick around to the end. At the end, I'll demonstrate a few different types of settings you can set up. I'm probably going to use 3 or 4 cameras, and each one will have a little different look. So stick around to the end if you're interested in any of this type of stuff at all. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about why I chose the Sony 6100 as my camera for doing YouTube videos. Now, a little short story into this is originally I had a Cannon. I think it was a 3 model. It was like the first video camera that Canon came out with. And it was a great camera. I mean, I've had Canons all my life and really like Canons. But the problem with that camera, it didn't have autofocus. So it was great if you had somebody videoing you, but I never have any help really, so I pretty much do all this by myself. So I started looking, and I looked for weeks. M50 was one of my cameras I really thought I was going to buy originally. And then I started looking into the Sonys. Never had thought about Sonys at all. And the reason I went with the Sony are a few things. It basically it doesn't have a time limit. My old Canon, I think, went 15 minutes on a video, and then it would shut off, which for a lot of things is fine. But for when you're out doing like a Parks on the Air or a Summits on the Air, a lot of times you want the camera to run longer. You won't use all that footage, but you want it to run, and I kept finding my camera was turned off and didn't realize why at first. So the Sonys have no cutoff time. The M50, I think, goes 30 minutes. When you go to 4K, the autofocus stays the same, and it doesn't really crop. This is a crop sensor camera because it has a small sensor, so it's not a full frame. So there's already a 16 by 55, or I think there's a 16 by 50 lens that comes with here. It's already not 16, it's like 24 or something like that. So, and that was something that the Canon actually did. It cropped in like this one does on regular 1080, but on 4K, which I've never really used yet, but someday. But on the Canon, it cropped in more. If this one does, it's not very much. So there's just a kind of a look at the camera. There's the top of it. I have this little bracket here because it has a flip up screen, which at first I didn't think I'd like, but I actually prefer it now. It flips up and it goes like that. I actually prefer that to the flip out screen like I had on my Canon, because it puts my view straight onto the lens. But because of that, when I use external mics that actually attach to the camera, I had to buy I bought this little bracket here. And basically what it does is allows me to put my microphone on the side of the camera here. It's a cold shoe. This camera does 1080p, does 4K, and I think the quality is pretty good. And later sometime in this video, I'll show you the advantages to having a camera like this, that the lenses come off. And I'll show you another lens that I have that I do a lot of my initial part of my videos. When I don't want to see the background in the video, I take this other lens, and it makes a huge difference. This lens only goes to 3.5 at 16 and 5.6 at the higher millimeter, so 50. So 50, I have a 56 Sigma. I'll show that to you in a minute. And it goes to 1.4. And when you put it at 1.4 and get some distance between you and the background, you can just blur the whole background. But that's not what I always want. So, and I'll show you some reasons. I have one of my videos up on a summit where I actually was using one of my other sports cameras, and I thought it was my Sony because the quality looked so good. But what was nice about it is it showed the background really well. So if you're in a beautiful area that you want people to see, don't blur the backgrounds out. Okay, so this camera, when I bought it, it was about the same price as a M50. But usually it's more expensive. So if money's a thing, there's nothing wrong with the Cannon M50. It's a great camera. A lot of people use them. It's just when you get into 4K, sometimes it lacks a little there on the focus. It loses it has really great focus until you go to 4K, and then it loses. That was another reason. One of the reasons I wanted this camera, the M50 is the same way. I wanted an external mic, so I didn't have to when I edited, I don't have to put sound together with my video. I do that every once in a while, but I didn't want to have to do that. Okay, I just wanted to show you another option here. This is a Sony HDR CX405, and on Amazon right now they're about $228. Now it does 60 times zoom, so more zoom than most of your cameras will come with, unless you buy really expensive lenses. And I mean, to get that kind of zoom, you're going to have to buy some really expensive lenses. It has a thing in the front here where it opens the lens cover. Turn them on, you just pop them open like this, and then it might be hard to see, but there's the viewfinder, and that viewfinder twists all the way around so you can get it and you can move it in and out. And that's how you turn it on and off, just by opening it like that. Now these camcorders usually come with a wall socket where you can plug it in and run the power. So the only limiting factor then on record time on a camcorder is the size of the card you're putting it into. Okay, I just want to show you the two cameras, the 6100 and the 5100. This is the 6100. This is the 5100. Now, this is a pretty small camera if you compare it to a lot of the SLR digitals. But look how small this thing is, comparison-wise. They're basically about the same this way. A little bit different. Little difference in height. Same lens. But definitely different size cameras. And this one's the 5100, a little bit lighter also. Thinner this way. Look right there. This part here compared to this part here. The other advantage this 6100 has, it has more controls. Up here you've got, you can see this, I guess. This will control your aperture or whatever you're on, or an aperture setting. It has different buttons you can program to be different functions. And it has the, on the side here, this doesn't have, just has the HDMI and the transfer cable, the regular USB. And this one's virtually the same, except it adds the microphone jack. Now, right now I'm recording with that video camera I showed you. And it looks pretty good. I mean, from what I'm seeing here, I'm just looking at it like you are. Well, I'm looking at it as I'm recording it. And not bad. Oh, wow. You can go out. I didn't even know it was in. I mean, this thing can go so far as you can. That's a good option, actually, for video. I mean, so far it looks pretty good. Like I said, I haven't, I did a couple practice things with it, but really haven't looked at it very closely. Okay, another thing I didn't show you, both of these have the flip-up screens. So this just flips up. This one flips up, but it also has a little articulation where it comes to get it just a little higher. So little few more moving parts there. And if we turn it on, it has a battery in it. This just kind of shows you the way I keep it. And then it won't focus, but do this. Focus on something over there. The glare, sorry. Once you get into this, I mentioned that I wanted to be able to use external mics. And I have a couple different external mics. All right. This is a Purple Panda. It's a kit. It's called a lavalier mic. It has the little clip on the back here. And I'll use this a lot if you really want good audio that's as long as you don't, it's a wired mic. It has a wire, so you have to be within reach, and it comes with an extension wire. This is called a dead cat. This is for trying to keep the wind noise down, and they do a pretty good job. Purple Panda comes with everything that you need pretty much for multiple cameras. You can use it on a phone. Your phone is another option. Is you can use Mike K8 MRD. I think he does all of his video on his iPhone, and it looks great. The phones these days they're pretty good. Now, this is by Movi. It's called a shotgun mic. So what you do is you would mount this on the camera. I would do something like this. You tighten it down, so it directs the microphone right at you. And these work pretty good as long as you're within 5 to 10 feet. 10 feet's pushing it. You got to turn the preamps up a little bit. But another good option. And I'm just going to show you a few things. I might do it in a later video. This was just kind of, I had some parts coming from my buddy, the Smoking Ape, and they weren't going to be here in time to do the other projects. So I'm just kind of doing this one on the fly. Comes with the plugs. Okay, so this another good option, and it basically, you have a bunch of cords that go with all these to I mean, certain cameras take certain pins on the plugins. So let me put this in the shot here. This is a Sigma 56mm. Sigma makes this for, you can buy this for your Canons. They make them for pretty much all cameras. They're a good lens for a decent price. You'll notice when you get into cameras that you can change the lenses. The monies that you spend will be on lenses. So this has a little lens hood. It goes on there and locks on. Let's see. There's the inside of it. Now this lens is what they call a fast lens. And a fast lens means it has a big aperture. And that big aperture lets a lot of light in, so that's why they call it fast. Now, if you want to get that bokeh or that blurred background, this is the way you go. Something like this. So it's a 56 millimeter 1.4. And the other thing about this lens, it's an autofocus lens. If you see, it's got the let's see, there we go. It's got the little metal things here that make it autofocus, and it's a really good, smooth, clean, and quiet autofocus. That's when you look at some cheaper lenses that do autofocus, sometimes they're noisy. This one's not, and that really only affects when you're doing video. If you're taking pictures, it doesn't really matter. This is really my favorite lens. My other one, the 16 to 50, I think it's 16 to 50 or 55. Yeah, 16 to 50. It has stabilization. Stabilization on my Sony is, I wouldn't call the greatest. It's not bad. But if you want to get out and do something with a stable camera, look into these action cameras. This is a DJI Osmo Action. And I'm really impressed with this thing. Like I said earlier, I thought I was looking at some Sony footage and found out it was actually this camera. And it won't get you the nice blur in the background, but if you're going to go out and do, say, a soda where you're hiking and stuff, you can't beat these little action cameras. I don't know of any full-size camera that can do the stabilization as good as these do. Sometimes they're so good it almost looks fake. Now I bought this. This actually has a case around it, so I have the cold shoes up here, and then it had a place so I use tripod mounts. This is a 1/4-20. Okay, this has been a super reliable camera for me, and to get a microphone external, you have to buy. The action camera guys kind of did some weird stuff. The old GoPros, you used to be able to plug something into it without buying anything extra, but this plugs in the side, and I've got a video, and I'll link that up above. I did a Summits on the Air, and I had a lot of noise, and I was using my lav mic with the windscreen or the dead cat, and it didn't seem to work. But I think what happened was this wasn't either plugged in all the way or it's really not working. So I need to do some testing on that before I use it again. I think what I may end up doing, just to make it easier, is you can put little dead cats on the speakers on these cameras. And that works pretty good. Now, I also have, and the only reason I have this is because, same with the little Sony video camera. The only reason I have that is I had points on my credit card that either use them or lose them. So I bought that camera, and then I had enough also to buy this. Now, this is the new GoPro. I'll tell you something else about that one too. Both of these cameras have front facing. The Osmo's had it for, this is the last generation of the Osmo, but it's been out for a few years, whereas you had to buy extra parts on the older GoPros to have the front facing. And the one thing nice about the front facing camera is that you can see if you're in the screen, and you're supposed to be the rule of thirds. You're supposed to leave a little, you're being 1/3 of it and leave 2/3 for the background. And even with these wide angle cameras, you don't always know unless you have that front facing camera or front facing screen. So both of these have it. This is a GoPro 9. Now, the one reason I stayed away from the GoPros originally is I read a lot of things about them losing footage, freezing up, and so I'm a little leery. And I only tried it because it didn't cost me anything other than my points. But I will do a video on these two side by side and compare the picture quality. I think the picture quality on the Osmo is more natural of what you really see. The GoPros seem to be oversaturated and your blues are bluer. They look really good though. I mean, they both take good videos. I haven't really used this much yet, but I will. And same thing with this one. You have to buy some type of an adapter for the GoPro to do sound. But both of these cameras have pretty decent onboard microphones if you don't want to mess with any kind of microphones. So the other thing you're going to have to be able to do as a creator or content creator, whatever you want to call YouTubers, is you're going to have to be able to do some editing. And that's what really scared me the most, because I'm not the best at computer stuff. So there's a lot of free different editing programs. So you can buy some, and it's all in what you like. I'm using DaVinci. It kind of makes sense to me, so I've stuck with it so far. But there's all kinds of other ones out there. YouTube is an expensive hobby or process. I mean, you can do it with your cell phone, though. You can keep it as, I mean, most people have a cell phone. Start it with your cell phone. Right now, I'm using my wife's camera to do all this, which is another great little camera. If you don't care about 4K, look for a used Sony 5100. Even the 5000 is not bad, but the 5100 I think has a few options that are better. Sometimes you can get these for $300 or $400. Sometimes I saw one the other day, it was $400 or $500, and it had an extra lens, 55 to 200. So there's, I mean, you could go on and on and on with a video. It could be like a couple hours, but I don't do couple hour videos. I try to keep them to about 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, and if I can help you or if I can find the answers, go ahead and put your questions in the comments. So hopefully this helps somebody out there with just thinking about getting into YouTube. I thought about it for a while. A friend of mine urged me for years to do this, and I finally got away from the fright of doing it. And it's fun. It's a fun thing. I've met some really neat people in this YouTube group that I'm with. The guys are into ham radio, and it doesn't have to be about ham radio. You can do anything you want. That's the nice thing about YouTube, and it's such a good tool when you need to know how to do something. All right. Hopefully this isn't too dark. I'm trying to stay out of the sun here, but we'll see how this works. It's kind of hard setting all three up, getting them kind of the same. So hopefully you enjoyed the video today. And just a reminder, if you're using your phone or even a camera, the camera's a little easier. Remember, don't do your videos like this. Do your videos like this. It'll be a nicer video on YouTube. Now I think Twitter and some of the other ones would prefer this, but for YouTube, put your camera sideways. The usual way a camera would be anyhow. So what I'm doing right now, I've got 3 cameras set up. Over here is my Camcorder 6100, and then the third one is the 5100. The 5100 is set at 50 millimeters, f11. 56 millimeters is all I have on the 6100, but it's set at 1.4, so it should be blurring the background. And the camcorder is just whatever it is. So hopefully this will get you kind of an idea. When I was talked about blurring the background, not blurring the background, sometimes you really don't want to. I'm also using my dead cat. It's a little windy out here. Hopefully that'll work. And I was going to use all the video from the 6100, which is on the microphone, but I think somewhere in the video I will turn each camera on its volume, just to show you. I'm 10 feet away from the camera here, and just see what the cameras will actually pick up. You'll notice a marked difference in the quality of your audio, and a lot of things that people will turn your video off for is audio. Video and audio, that's your two things, and then your content probably. So
hopefully this was a good video for everybody, especially if you're new to this. I know it's something different than I usually do, but it is what I do as far as YouTube videos. So if you did like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell for all so you get future videos, and most of those will be oriented towards ham radio and some adventure. I plan to do the desert hopefully pretty soon in my 4Runner. The weather's getting better. You know, Death Valley, maybe down towards San Diego. There's some other great places down there, and then probably the mountains also. So this is Chuck, KK6USY for Ham Radio Adventures. Be safe and do more ham radio. Catch you later. 73's all.